I remember the first night I saw her broom cutting across the winter sky. It was long ago, over the rolling hills and stone villages of a country where the bells ring out from tall campanile towers, and the smell of bread lingers in the narrow streets even on the coldest mornings. I was flying high above the clouds, my reindeer steady as ever, the world below sprinkled with flickering lights. It was the time of year when I am busiest, of course. Yet even in such a season, I make time to look and listen, to notice the small miracles that happen quietly beneath my sleigh. That night, the stars were bright, and the moon hung low and golden. I had just finished my rounds in a small village, where rooftops leaned together like old friends, and laundry lines now sagged under the weight of snow instead of sheets. As I rose back into the sky, I felt something I do not feel often, another presence in the air beside me. It was not the wind, nor a bird, nor a stray piece of cloud. It was someone. I turned my head, and there, to my left, cutting through the night on a crooked little broom, was an old woman. Her cloak was patched and worn, her shawl tied tightly under her chin. Her nose was sharp, her chin a little pointed, and her eyes, her eyes were bright, keen as a child's, and full of a restless searching that tugged at my heart. A bag hung from one shoulder, bulging with something that shifted and rattled as she flew. At the hem of her skirt, strips of fabric flapped in the wind like colorful flags. She did not see me at first. She was concentrating very hard on the trail of chimneys below, muttering to herself. Number 27. 2 children, a boy who fibs and a girl who studies too much. 28. 3 cousins visiting, mustn't forget. 29. The one who broke the window and blamed the dog. There was a certain brusque humor in her tone, but beneath it I heard something else. Tenderness, worn thin and wrapped in gruffness, yet still unmistakably there. I eased the reins and brought my sleigh a little closer, the bells on the harness chiming softly. The sound drifted toward her. She looked up sharply, blinking behind her round spectacles, and for a heartbeat we simply stared at one another across the cold air. Then she snorted. "So," she said, in a voice like firewood cracking, "you're real after all. The children talk about you, you know. Big fellow, red coat, booming laugh, reindeer, presents, all in one night? Show off." I couldn't help but smile. "And you must be Befana," I replied, inclining my head in greeting. "I've heard your name whispered in many houses, especially as the old year turns and the new one knocks on the door." She squinted at me. "They still call me that then? Old Befana, the busybody with the broom? Better than some things I've been called." She darted ahead a little, then looped back, clearly too used to her own rhythm to slow easily. I matched her pace. "May I fly with you for a while?" I asked. "Suit yourself," she grumbled, "so long as you don't slow me down. I have work to do." Below us, the village roof slid by like dark, snow-covered stepping stones. Candlelight glowed in a few windows. A dog barked faintly. Somewhere a late L chimed. Befana swooped down toward a chimney and hovered. "2 sisters," she muttered. "One shy, one bold. The old one hides food for the shy one, even when she's hungry herself. Good heart. The shy one is afraid of everything, but she never refuses to help when she's asked. Good heart too." So, she reached into her bag and pulled out 2 small bundles, neatly wrapped in simple paper with string. One she dusted lightly with sweet, sugar-scented crumbs. The other she tapped with the end of her broom, and a faint aroma of oranges and fresh bread rose into the cold air. Gifts for both, she decided, and only a very tiny piece of coal each, so they don't get too proud of themselves. She dropped the little gifts expertly down the chimney, followed by 2 smooth, harmless lumps of coal that would probably end up in a game before they ever saw the hearth. Then she made a quick mark on a little scrap of paper and stuffed it into her pocket. I watched her work, my curiosity deepening. "You know them well," I said. "You speak as if you've watched them for years." "Of course I have," she snapped, already moving on. I live among them. I sweep their streets, buy bread from their ovens, grumble at their noise, and listen to their arguments through the thin walls, whether I want to or not. I've watched them since they were babies. Why do you think I do this? Because I like flying in the cold for fun? Her voice softened. They are my people. Who else will look after them, if not someone who sees them every day? We flew in silence for a while. She continued her rounds, dropping sweets here, fruit there, sometimes a toy carved from wood, sometimes a simple cookie or a bit of candy. In houses where she knew a child had lied or stolen, she left more coal and fewer sweets. But I noticed that even in the worst cases, she never left only coal. There was always at least one small piece of sugar, one little softening of the judgment. They say, I ventured gently, that once long ago you had a chance to see another child, a very special one, but you stayed behind. Her broom wobbled, and for the first time that night, her flying grew unsteady. Ah, she muttered, so they tell that story too, do they? She fell quiet. We passed over a frozen field, its furrows hidden under snow, then over a river where ice hugged the banks, and the water moved sluggish and dark in the center. At last, she sighed, a deep sound that seemed to come from a place much older than her patched cloak. Yes, she said, it's true, or true enough. She did not need to elaborate. I knew the tale of the brilliant star that once shone over those hills, of the 3 wise travelers on camels, following it to find a child born in a humble place. They stopped at a tidy little house to ask directions, and an old woman opened the door. They spoke to her of the star, a hope of a king who would bring light into a world grown dim. Come with us, they said. Bring a gift, come and see. Befana, being herself even then, fussed over the dust on the floor, the bread in the oven, the laundry she had not yet folded. Too much to do, she had answered. Maybe tomorrow. By the time tomorrow came, the star had moved on, and she had missed it. I meant to go, she said quietly now, eyes fixed on the shadowy earth below. I truly did. I even gathered some toys I had carved, and a shawl I had been saving. And then I realized I did not know where he was. The world was wide. The roads were many. I stood there with my arms full and no idea which way to walk. Her fingers tightened on the broom handle. I have tried ever since, she went on, to make up for that moment. Every year when that time comes round again, I go looking. They say children are closest to him. They say he lives in their laughter, in their tears, in their longing for kindness they can't name. So I fill my bag and fly. If I cannot find him, I will at least find them. Perhaps he will forgive an old woman who is too busy sweeping to follow a star. We passed over another village, this one on a hillside, its houses stacked like uneven blocks, stairways and stone steps glistening with frost. Dogs barked. Somewhere a baby cried, then was soothed. Befana glanced down, her face soft in the moonlight. And have you found him? I asked gently. She shrugged, but there was a light in her eyes that had not been there when we first met. I find pieces, she said, in the boy who shares his bread with a stray cat, even when his stomach grumbles, in the girl who sits with her grandmother and listens to the same story for the 100th time without complaining, in the parents who work late into the night and still find a way to smile at their children in the morning. I see him in the way they forgive each other day after day, clumsily but sincerely. Perhaps that is enough. We dip lower over a cluster of small houses, their roofs heavy with snow. In that one, Befana said, pointing with her broom, there is a child who thinks no one sees her. She is quiet, always in the corner with her books. She believes the world would not notice if she disappeared. She pulled out a simple little doll, stitched from scraps of cloth, its yarn hair wild and bright. I made this for her, she murmured. It's not perfect, but then neither am I. Maybe she will understand that. She sent it down the chimney with a practiced flick. I imagined the doll landing softly near the hearth, waiting under the thin light of morning for a pair of surprised hands. "You care deeply," I said, "in your own bristly way." She sniffed. "Someone has to. You range all over the world in one night, leaving wonders behind you. I stick to my hills and valleys and stubborn villages. I know their gossip, their grudges, their secrets. I see who needs sweets and who needs coal and who needs a little of both. We each have our territory, you and I." She hesitated, then added in a voice so quiet I almost missed it. "And sometimes, when the wind is kind, I like to imagine that the child I didn't go to see sees me instead, sees that I did not spend the rest of my life merely regretting, but searching." The night had drifted on. My own work was calling me elsewhere, yet I did not want to leave without saying what needed to be said. "Old Befana," I said, "I have watched you for many years. I'd have seen your broom tracing paths between the same chimneys winter after winter. I have seen you grumble and scold and mutter about noisy children, and then leave them exactly the gifts they needed, even if they never knew your name. I have seen you slip extra sweets into the stockings of orphans, and extra coal into the boots of bullies who needed a mirror more than a prize. You have not wasted your life." She stared straight ahead, her jaw tight. "I was too late for him," she said. "I missed my chance." I shook my head. "He is not a single night, in a single stable, under a single star," I replied. "He is in every act of love that costs you something. In every time you choose to give rather than to hoard, to hope rather than to shrug. You have been visiting him for years without knowing it." For a moment, the only sound was the wind. Then old Befana laughed, a short, surprised sound, rough as gravel and yet strangely bright. "Humph," she said, wiping at one eye with the corner of her shawl, as if swatting away a speck of dust. "If that is true, he has an odd way of announcing himself. Still, it would be just like a king born in a stable to hide in the faces of village brats, wouldn't it?" "Yes," I said, "it would." We flew together a little while longer, two strange old figures in the winter sky, one with a sleigh and reindeer, the other with a broom and a patchwork cloak. Below us, lights burned in windows. Somewhere a child stirred in sleep, dreaming of gifts and something deeper than gifts. Somewhere else, an old man sat by a fire, remembering a kindness from long ago and feeling less alone. At last, our paths began to diverge. My journey would carry me north and west, while hers would dip south and east, back over the familiar villages that knew her as their own. She glanced at me sidelong. "Well, big man," she said gruffly, "I suppose you have enough to do without chasing an old woman and her broom all night. Off with you. And don't forget the little house by the mill. The boy there pretends to be brave, but the dark still scares him. A lantern would not go amiss." "I won't forget," I promised. "And you," I added, "don't forget that it is never truly too late. Not while there is breath in your lungs and a gift in your hands." She grunted, then gave me a rare, almost shy smile. "I'll remember," she said. "Now go. We both have children waiting." With that, she leaned forward and her broom shot away into the night, a small, stubborn streak of motion against the endless sky. Her bag rattled with sweets and tiny treasures. Somewhere below, a child who thought no one had noticed them would soon wake to find proof that someone had. So when you hear of old Befana flying on her broom, bringing gifts and a bit of coal, do not think only of a witch-like figure in stories told to make children behave. Think of a woman who once said, "Not today," to a star, and spent the rest of her life saying yes to every small chance to love. Think of her broom, sweeping not just dust, but regret from the corners of her heart, making room for something better. And if you, too, feel that you have missed your moment, that you should have gone when the call first came, and now it is too late, remember her. Remember that as long as there is someone near you who needs kindness, as long as there is one more door you can knock on, one more small gift you can give, your journey is not over. I will be out there in my sleigh. She will be out there on her broom. And you, in your own way, can join us both, on the ground, in the ordinary places where the truest Christmas work is always done. Merry Christmas, my friend. May you always find, like old Befana, that every new winter brings another chance to follow the light.